Hey guys, Zen here, and today I wanted to give some attention to an operator who is literally never in the spotlight, and that's Lesion. Now, real quick, I wanted to ask you guys a question, and all I ask for is your gut answer. If you were to make up a top 5 defenders list, where would Lesion fall if he would get a spot at all in your opinion? But I think the bigger question here is if Lesion is the best defender currently in the game. Now, I realize there are a lot of you out there who don't believe that there is a best or worst operator, and that it all comes down to the map or the specific situation. And trust me, that is totally a valid argument, but I think it's important to fully realize the current meta of operators, and the only way to really do that is to determine which operators stand above the rest. But this is a topic that we'll return to later in the video and specifically tie it to Lesion. Now, I wanted to quickly show you guys this. It's a poll that I put up on the community section of this channel. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but it's pretty much the most generic question I could ask. Who does it better, Frost or Lesion? Now, I like to ask this kind of question because I feel like it leaves so much for interpretation. Some people take it from a weapon standpoint, others answer based on gadgets, but at the end of the day, most people answer based on thinking of these operators as a whole, what they bring to the table every single round, and how much overall benefit they add to a defensive team. And with over 40,000 votes, yes, you guys are incredibly active, it was a clear winner, and Lesion is the operator that simply does it better. You Frost mains came out strong though, and you guys are some of the most passionate players I've come across, but even some of you Frost mains voted for Lesion because it's clear just how powerful this operator currently is. The next thing I wanted to show you guys was this image. It's the last win delta pick rate data we got, and Lesion sits proudly in the overpicked and too strong category. But if we look at the other operators in this category, we can start to paint a picture of what this image may look like once Operation Grim Sky comes to an end. Now, as you guys can see, the only operators that stand to be competition for Lesion here are Bandit, Jaeger, and Vigil. Yes, Ella may have a much higher win rate, but because of all her nerfs, she hasn't been picked nearly as much as she used to, and Smoke sits pretty close to Lesion, but I'm pretty sure he's been beaten out every single season by Lesion since his release in Operation Blood Orchid. Now, with Operation Grim Sky, we got Maverick, and like it or not, he is a major counter to Bandit, and will, and honestly probably has, severely affected his pick rate. If Maverick is present on an attacking team, Bandit really can't trick anymore, and that makes him really unreliable as an anti-breacher. On top of losing both the ACOG and the third barbed wire a few seasons back, it's becoming more and more difficult to choose Bandit, which leaves room for Lesion to creep up and take his spot. Then there's Vigil. With Operation Grim Sky, we got 2 changes that I think hurt Vigil. First, we got the new recoil system, and secondly, there was a nerf to all automatic secondaries, including Vigil's SMG-12. These 2 changes made that weapon and other weapons like it almost useless in the meta, and again, I see this heavily affecting the pick rate of both Vigil and Dokkaebi. This secondary was crucial to them being as powerful as they were, and I know for myself, again, a chronic solo queuer, I'm seeing both of these operators much less, which inadvertently means a lower pick rate. Finally, there's Jaeger, the operator I believe is Legion's biggest competition for the top spot. A few months back, I made my 5 best defenders video, and for those who watched, you know I gave Jaeger the #1 spot. To this day, he counters the most gadgets in the game, has a really solid assault rifle that was actually made a little better with the new recoil, and of course is 3 speed, able to get around the map very quickly. But Jaeger only does one thing. Even if he does it best, he serves one purpose: to stop enemy projectiles. Sure, there are a lot of them, but again, that's the one purpose. He's also very limited to where his ADS can actually be placed, either floor or wall, but it must be physically placed. Lesion, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily counter anything, but he serves a few purposes. Let's start with the goo gadget itself. By design, it is a trap, and if you must categorize, he is a trap operator. Of course, it's cloaked, so it's very difficult to see, and if you're holding angles, you're almost guaranteed to step on it. It causes damage, so unlike an Elamine or a blast from Yokai, it'll actually hurt the enemy, and of course, it's extremely loud when being stepped on, giving away a huge cue to where an enemy is located. So I would say that Lesion falls into 3 categories: trap, entry denial, and intel. I'm gonna give you guys a major tip that I'm hoping if you take anything away from this video, it'll be this. Don't think of Lesion as a trap operator only. Lean much more heavily into intel, and you'll become a much better Lesion player. I know we've all seen that Lesion player throw all of his goo into one area, trying to do as much damage as possible, and betting on the attackers to step on multiple goo in one spot. Take Upstairs Oregon, for instance, in the bedroom. They'll throw literally 5 or 6 goo underneath that main window, and that'll of course be the brunt of the operator's utility. enemy. There is some method to that madness, mainly to do more initial damage because the poison doesn't stack and the attackers will still only have to pick out one needle after stepping on all of those traps. The best way to play Lesion is to anchor down and thoroughly spread your goo throughout the objective. Also, don't be afraid to take a page out of Valkyrie's book and throw some goo outside, especially in places where there's stairs or something leading to a door where you can run out and take full advantage. This is especially true on maps like the new Hereford Base and Skyscraper. If you can get a goo mine out on some of those balconies, it can actually be more reliable for kills than even a Valkyrie black cam. Now, if there's one thing that Lesion may do better than anyone else, it is plant denial in the bomb game mode. Now, I know a lot of you are going to argue that Echo is the best at that, but if an attacker has goo in their foot, they can't plant the diffuser, instead having to take out the goo first. I can't tell you how many rounds I've won, especially in 1v1 situations where I use goo to prevent a plant. You do need to know where the enemy is, and you should also be aware of the most popular plant spots, but make no mistake, this is a viable tactic, and when it happens to you, you'll want to behead Lord Chanka, which is the worst of sins in this community. It should also be noted that it never really matters when you pick Lesion. No matter the objective, no matter the strat, Lesion can be played easily and comfortably literally anywhere, which is something a lot of operators can't say. Even Jaeger has some objectives where the ADS can easily be shot at and people will opt for someone else. Now, the main point that I'm trying to make here is that with Operation Grim Sky, some of the strongest defenders as of last season have taken a pretty big hit, aside from Jaeger, who again serves that one purpose. Lesion really hasn't been touched at all, and it honestly surprises me. To see Ubisoft deliberately nerf the SMG 11 and 12, which automatically nerfs certain operators, then add Maverick, who has no real hard counter and seriously counters Bandit, another very prominent defender, it baffles me that Lesion is yet to be touched. His gun is solid, his secondary gadget options are excellent, and his goo may be the best gadget on defense. If not, it's the gadget with the most utility on defense. I feel like you can substitute Lesion for Frost, Kapkan, Valkyrie, Ella, and even Echo to a degree, and your team really wouldn't be missing out on much at all. If you really think about it, Lesion kind of borrows from each of them in a way, and it makes for an operator in a skill set with variety, which is honestly rare in this game. Most times these operators are focused in what they do. You can define certain ops as breachers or traps or intel, but Lesion kind of does it all, and it surprises me that he has never been nerfed since his release, not directly anyway, and with how powerful he is and where he sits on these graphs, by now I'd think he would have been. If you were curious of my answer to my initial question at the beginning of the video, I gave Lesion the number 4 spot in the past, but when I refresh those videos and bring them up to date, he may just be competing for the best defender in Rainbow Six Siege. But that's everything, guys. Somewhat of a discussion video, some thought-provoking elements, but what's really important is the feedback from the community. Where do you guys stand with Lesion? How do you play with him? And what do you feel are his biggest drawbacks as an operator? Let me know everything in a comment down below. And again, guys, where is he on your top 5? But if you did enjoy this video, please drop a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. With that being said, it's been Zen. Hey, I'm out.